talk to you folks about is the Rotary Foundation, but I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to talk about the actual history of the Rotary Foundation. When I put this presentation together, I actually learned some things about Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation that I didn't know. So let me set my PowerPoint up. Give me just a moment. Everybody see that?
Yep, we got you here.
Okay. So as I said, I'm going to talk about the history of the Rotary Foundation. And as I'm going along, if anyone has any questions, just yell at me, get my attention. I'm happy to stop and answer questions. So let's go right ahead. So in 1917, Arch Klump, Rotary's sixth president, proposed to the Rotary International Convention in Atlanta, Georgia, the creation of an endowment fund for Rotary for the purpose of doing good in the world in charitable, educational, and other avenues of community service. A few months, the endowment received its first contribution of $26.50 from the Rotary Club of Kansas City, Missouri. In 1928, when the endowment fund had grown to more than $5,000, the fund was renamed the Rotary Foundation, and it became a distinct entity within Rotary International. 5 trustees, including Klump, were appointed to hold, invest, manage, and administer all of its property as a single trust for the furtherance of the purposes of Rotary International. 2 years later, the foundation made its first grant of $500 to the International Society for Crippled Children. The ISCC, created by Rotarian Edgar F. Allen, later grew into the Easter Seals organization. Now, the Great Depression and World War II both impeded significant growth for the foundation, but the need for promoting a lasting world peace generated great post-war interest in developing the foundation. After Rotary founder Paul Harris died in 1947, contributions began pouring into Rotary International, and the Paul Harris Memorial Fund was created for the purpose of building the foundation. That same year, the first foundation program was established, Fellowships for Advanced Study, which was the forerunner of the Rotary Ambassadorial Scholarships Program. Then, in 1965-66, 3 new programs were launched: Group Study Exchange, Awards for Technical Training, and Grants for activities keeping with the objective of the Rotary Foundation. Fortunately, they renamed that to Matching Grants. The Health, Hunger, and Humanity 3H program was launched in 1978, with the Volunteers program being created as part of 3H in 1980. The Polio Plus program was announced in 1984-85, and the following year saw the introduction of Rotary grants for university teachers. The first establishment of Rotary peace programs, the first peace forums were held in 1987-88, leading to the establishment of Rotary peace programs. Then in 1989, the 1963-64 Rotary International President Carl Miller and his wife Ruth donated $1 million to establish the Discovery Grants Program. Throughout this time, support for the Rotary Foundation grew tremendously. Since that first donation of $26.50, the foundation has received contributions totaling more than $1 billion. In 2019-20, the Rotary Foundation awarded more than 1,300 grants worth $95.6 million. In addition, since March of 2020, the Rotary Foundation has awarded $32 million in global and disaster response grants related to COVID-19. More than 900,000 individuals have been recognized as Paul Harris Fellows. Realizing the importance and effectiveness of Polio Plus, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation joined Rotary in 2007 in its fight against polio. In 2013, the Gates Foundation announced that it would match every dollar Rotary commits to polio eradication 2-to-1, up to $35 million per year. In January of 2020, Rotary International and the Gates Foundation announced renewal of their long-lasting partnership to end polio, announcing a joint commitment of up to an additional $450 million to support the global polio eradication effort. So, why is it important to invest in the Rotary Foundation? Well, let me answer that question, and I like to use this train as the graphic. So imagine, if you will, the locomotive on this train represents the Rotary Foundation. And all of these rail cars back here behind it represent all of the projects supported by the Rotary Foundation. Now imagine, if you will, the coal car is the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation, and all of the monies invested in the Rotary Foundation from around the world go into this coal car. So what happens when we start thinking that investing in the Rotary Foundation is no longer important and that we should invest our money elsewhere? Excuse me. Well, that coal car, or the annual fund, starts to run out of fuel, and that slows down this train. And when that coal car runs out of coal completely, that train stops moving. And when that train stops moving, so do all of these projects that are being supported by the Rotary Foundation. So I'll ask you again, is investing in the Rotary Foundation important? Well, let's explore a little bit further. When the train stops moving, so does this. In 1985, when Rotary International declared war against polio, there were over 39,000 cases reported worldwide. Did you know that as of September 29th of this year, there have been only two new cases of the wild polio virus reported in 2021? Both of those cases reported in January. One was in Pakistan, one was in Afghanistan. So when that train stops moving, so does this. You guys recognize these students? I think this is a project that your club funded. Do you think that these children understand the importance of investing in the Rotary Foundation? What about this? Did you know that 6% of the world does not have access to an improved water source? Did you know that unsafe water is responsible for 1.2 million deaths each year? That's the equivalent of Rotary International, everyone in it dying every year, year after year. Think about that. I'll bet the residents of this community recognize the importance of investing in the Rotary Foundation and fresh water. Do you think, oh, there's another picture. Do you think that the residents that benefited from your diabetes conference understand the importance of investing in Rotary? If we fail to invest in Rotary, none of these projects take place, and all the lives that we touch go untouched. So, for me, the easiest way to break down Rotary are these three areas, because I could talk about the Rotary Foundation, and there's so many different branches that I could discuss, but I try to narrow it down to three. Giving, which I like to refer to as investing, because you are investing in your community and communities around the world. Spending, and then reporting and recognition. So who can tell me what the easiest way is to donate to Rotary International? Anybody? Easiest way is by this, Rotary Direct. Now I put the website up here that you can go to access this form. You donate through Rotary Direct. You can do a one-time gift, or you can do a recurring gift. They have set amounts, or you can put in the amount that you want to put in. You can do it monthly, quarterly, annually. You can have them debit your checking account. You can put it on a credit card. Just fill this form out, cut it in half, and mail it into the address right there. If you find that to be too difficult, I just give them a call on the phone. Their number's right here, and they'll take care of this over the phone. We all have a different level of giving. If you give just $1, does that make a difference? Well, yeah, because there's 1.2 million Rotarians in the world. If we all give $1, that's $1.2 million that we can use to invest in our communities. So I highly recommend going to Rotary Direct. You still get your Paul Harris recognition by doing this because it's linked to your Rotary membership ID number. But super easy. You make the donations and you don't even notice that it's happening. Who out there shops on Amazon? Anyone buy anything from Amazon? Well, check this out. Amazon Smile. You can go to Amazon Smile and you can pick Rotary International to be your charity of choice. And then every time you purchase something from Amazon, 0.5% of that purchase will go to your charitable organization. Now, if your Rotary Club has its own foundation, you can pick that as the recipient for that 0.5%. Now, 0.5% doesn't really sound like a lot, but since the inception of this program, Amazon has donated more than $266 million to charities around the world. So that does work. Check that out, smile.amazon.com. So I've talked a lot about giving. Where does the money go that you invest in the Rotary Foundation? Does everybody know how our donations work when you send them to Rotary International? I'll give you an insight. There's a 3-year cycle whenever you donate money to the Rotary Foundation. Your donation goes to the annual fund and it sits there for 3 years and it generates interest. And it's that interest that Rotary International uses to fund its projects. Now, after 3 years, they pull that money out and half of it, 50%, goes on to the World Fund. The World Fund is what powers all of the global grants and programs that Rotary International sponsors. The other half comes back to your district, and it's called district designated funds. And those funds can be used for a district grant, which is a grant that you can do right in your community, or they can be used for global grants. Global grants are self-explanatory, but you can also use that DDF for Polio Plus, for global peace centers as well. Does everybody understand how that works? Right on. Okay, so spending. I'm not going to discuss a lot about spending because your club gets it. Having invested more than $1 million in your community since 2007, well done. That is so humbling and amazing. I love to share that story. Good job, everybody. So we'll move on to reporting and recognition. So why is recognition important? Anybody want to take a stab at that? All right, well, to me, I think recognition is important because people like to be recognized for the work that they do, especially if it's volunteer. We're not getting paid to do this. Well, not monetarily. I think we all reap the rewards of volunteering and doing good in the world. But people like to get recognized for their good deeds. Secondly, there's so many times that we do projects in the global community, and it's for people whom we're never going to meet. Our paths will never cross. So think of the recognitions as their way of saying thank you for making a difference in their world. So there are several different ways that Rotary International recognizes your investment in the Rotary Foundation. There's a Paul Harris Fellowship, Paul Harris Sustaining Member, Paul Harris Society, Benefactor, Bequest Society and Legacy Society, Major Donor, an Arch Clump Society. I'm going to speak about the Paul Harris Fellowship, Paul Harris Society, benefactor, and major donor. So let's start with Paul Harris Fellowship. So what is a Paul Harris Fellow? Paul Harris Fellow program recognizes individuals who contribute or have contributions made in their name of $1,000. And that can be a one-time gift or it can be cumulative. When you give additional gifts of $1,000 cumulatively or as a one-time gift, you receive multiple Paul Harris Fellow recognitions. Your club has only 5 members that are not Paul Harris Fellows. If they're new members, and I hope that this presentation does encourage them to start investing in the Rotary Foundation and earn their Paul Harris Fellow. Now, the Paul Harris Society recognizes an individual who agrees to make that contribution of $1,000 or more each year, every year. And then you have a major donor. Major donor is an individual that donates $10,000 cumulatively or as a one-time gift, which excludes foundation recognition points. Now, like a Paul Harris Fellow, there are different levels of major donor depending on the level of giving. Now, does everybody know what foundation recognition points are? I'm going to assume that there's some people that don't, and I'll tell you. So after your initial investment in the Rotary Foundation of $1,000, any donations after that generate foundation recognition points. And you can use these points and donate them to anybody, Rotarian or non-Rotarian, to help them attain their next level Paul Harris Fellow. You just can't use them for yourself. If you want help, you've got to get someone else's points. The next one I want to talk about is benefactor. I believe you have 3 or 4 people in your club that are benefactors, and this is a really easy and painless way to make a difference and to ensure your legacy in Rotary moves forward. A benefactor is anyone who informs the foundation in writing that they have made provisions in their will or other estate plan, naming the foundation's permanent fund as a beneficiary, or anyone who makes an outright gift of $1,000 or more to the Rotary Foundation permanent fund. So I've talked a lot about giving. How do you find out how much you've given to the Rotary Foundation? How do you find out how close you are to your next Paul Harris level? Or are you close to being a major donor? Well, if you'll sign in to Rotary International and then log into My Rotary, you're going to get this screen right here. And what you're going to want to do is hover your cursor over the tab here that says the Rotary Foundation. You don't want to click it, just hover over that tab. And when you hover over that, this pop-down window appears, and you'll just slide over and click on Foundation Reports. When you click on Foundation Reports, it takes a minute for that page to generate. It takes you to the Reports page, and the very first report is the Donor History Report. Now, you can do a couple of things here. You can view report, or look, you can give online. You can go right online and make a donation to the Rotary Foundation, or you can click here and find out how to mail your contribution in. But for what we're doing right now, click on View Report. Again, it's going to take it a few minutes to populate, and then you get this page. From here, you're just going to click on this blue Donor History Report hot link, and then it's going to bring this report up. So this is my Donor History Report. I've fuzzed out some of the personal information that's on here, but it will tell you if you're a major donor or a member of the Arch Clump Society, if you're a member of the Bequest or Legacy Society, or if you're a benefactor. It'll also tell if you're a Paul Harris Society eligible, if you're a sustaining member, and if you're an E-Ray. Now, this is wrong. E-Ray is not $25, it's $100 annually. And if everyone in your club donates $100 annually as a minimum, then your club will be an E-Ray club, every Rotarian every year. It'll tell if you're a Paul Harris Fellow, what your recognition amount is. Mine is a Paul Harris +3. If you have any foundation recognition points available to transfer, and if you're a Paul Harris Society member, and it'll have when you joined. Now, as you give money to the Rotary Foundation, you can just drop it in the annual fund, you can drop it into Polio Plus, or you can specify a specific area of focus. Say, for instance, your area of focus that you're passionate about fresh water. So you can donate to the annual fund, but tell them that you want your money to go and fund water and sanitation. And then when that money moves out of the annual fund after that 3-year investment, that 50% that goes to the World Fund will be earmarked for water and sanitation as you requested. And then that other half comes back. So they give you a graph here to show where the money you've donated goes and what percentage goes to what fund. So as you can see, for me, most of my donations have gone to the annual fund and a portion have gone to Polio Plus. Now, when I created this slide, unfortunately, I cut off the very bottom, and at the very bottom, there's another tab that you can click, and it says Transaction Detail. Now, if you click that tab, it brings this detail report up. And what this report is it's a transaction detail of every transaction that has been credited to your Rotary ID number. Whoop. So again, I've fuzzed out personal information, but if you see a transfer out, that's where I've donated foundation recognition points to someone. A transfer in is where someone has donated foundation recognition points to me. There's my contribution right there, and it went to the annual fund. There's another one there. There's another one there. There's a recognition. So 2019, July 10th is when I got my Paul Harris +3. That's when I received that recognition. But again, all of that information will be spelled out over here, and all those details are listed. So does everybody understand how to get to that report? Do you need me to go through those steps again?
Steve, I want you to come back to the points thing here, and it doesn't have to be now, it could be at the end. What's best for you?
Well, my next slide is a closing remark from Arch Klump. So I can do that closing remark and then go back, or I can go back and answer your question. Why don't we go back and answer your question?
Well, I sort of understand the points thing. And our club, we shared points around and became an all Paul Harris Fellow club.
Okay.
In, I guess, say 3 or 4 years ago, which in Mexico it's a big thing to have an all Paul Harris Fellow club. But I guess since you know what it is, the tradition of using points to recognize a community was what I always thought points were for, to give, and because we sort of traded them among ourselves, we got this recognition, and they're apparently have it forever. Is it common for clubs to pass points around for people to get? And is there any distinction between people that give actual real money and points to achieve their different levels of Paul Harris recognition?
That's a great question. So first off, what I can tell you is I know a lot of clubs in my district and in our zone. They use the foundation recognition points as bait, if you will. Our foundation chair will look at the giving report, and we'll see who's $500 or less from their next Paul Harris Fellow recognition. And then what we'll offer them, and then we'll look and see who has a lot of foundation recognition points, and we'll ask them if they're willing to donate to encourage giving. And what we'll do then is we'll have our foundation chair approach the individuals that are close and say, hey, we noticed that you're X amount away from your next Paul Harris Fellow, you think you'd be able to pony up that money and make that happen. And if they say, well, that's a little more than what I can do, so then we'll say, well, look, we'll meet you halfway. How will that work? If you throw in half that in cash, we will match the other half in points, and then boom, you'll get your next Paul Harris recognition. Now, the only time that becomes a factor as far as the foundation points, the only drawback to that is when you look at your report and say, for instance, it says that you're at $8,500 in total giving, which is a Paul Harris plus 9. And as you know, there's no Paul Harris plus 10, because once you reach $10,000 in giving, you're considered a major donor. To be considered for a major donor, they exclude any and all foundation recognition points from that total. It is strictly based on cold hard cash. So if you're at $8,500, you think you're $500 away from achieving your major donor status, but you've got $1,500 in credit through foundation recognition points, then you're really only at 7,000, because they don't count those foundation recognition points. They also don't count those when they're considering you for Arch Clump Society. So does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
I guess I think you explained it well. I think there's those of us that have a ton of points laying around and we don't tend to use them. I was under the impression that we name a citizen of the year every year. This year it's been a person that was quite really led the community during COVID, a nurse, and and anyway, we gave her this award. We give award to someone in our community every year, and I thought that would be a good place to use them. But using them to leverage someone to give more points isn't sort of something we do, and I don't know if it's we don't have a tradition of that, or whether it's not important, but I guess I'm just trying to understand, Steve, you've been around a bunch of different districts or clubs or whatever through your speaking. Do people see it the same way, other than getting to a major donor status or PIN, which, in a bigger district or international level may, have some benefit for people, but at a club level, it kind of, other than getting that status, is there anything that giving actual cash does for you different than the point system?
Giving actual cash doesn't benefit you other than towards your major donor status. Giving cash benefits the Rotary Foundation, because the Rotary Foundation uses the cash for the projects. Rotary Foundation can't do squat with points. Points are moot when it comes to doing projects. And I do know of quite a few clubs that use the foundation recognition points to leverage individuals in the community. Like you say, you recognize outstanding citizens. Give them a Paul Harris, invite them to your club meeting, make a big deal out of the presentation, and then you follow up and invite them to next week's meeting. It's a great tool for trying to attract new members, especially if you're looking at citizens of the year or individuals that are making an impact in the community, because they're already kind of following along the lines of what Rotarians do, and you want the movers and shakers that are in your community to be in your club, because then that's what's also going to attract other members. It's like, man, I want to be associating with these people. Look at the stuff that they're doing. And that's how you do it. The big thing you want to do is make sure that they understand it's not about money. I know when I first went to my first Rotary Club, I was like, oh yeah, I can't afford to do this. It's way beyond my blood. And that's a big misconception that I think clubs need to break, because it's really affordable. It's your club, it's your membership. You make your Rotary experience You're in charge of that Rotary experience, each and every one of us, your Rotary adventure is what you make it. So you invest how you can and when you can. I tell people in our club, I said, everybody in our club is important. We have some members that are able to invest money, but they can't invest their time because of their job requirements. We have others that don't have money, but they've got a world of time that they can donate. And it takes both together. They're both equally important to make your club viable and make it work. So, you can use those recognition points. That's the beauty, that they can be given to anybody. So absolutely use them in the best way that benefits your club. If giving it to citizens that are making an impact in your community, by all means do so. It's whatever works for your club.
Who actually manages that in your club, Steve? I mean, who sees how many recognition points there are to spend, if you will, for this quarter, this, Rotary year or whatever?
We have an actual foundation chair that does it for the club. And I have a major donor chair on my district committee that oversees those individuals that are getting close to another Paul Harris Fellow, or encourage people to be in the Paul Harris Society. So our actual foundation chair does it. And it's kind of interesting because I'm the international chair in our club. We have a separate foundation chair, but he's been our foundation chair for quite a few years, and he does an amazing job. He's also the treasurer, so he knows exactly what money is where. But what we do is, in my club, we, at the end of the year, is when we try and encourage additional giving. And so about May, June, we start looking at the reports, and then he and our club president and I have a meeting. We just kind of get together, see who's where, and see what kind of contributions that we can get given to the Rotary Foundation. So that's who does it in our club, our foundation chair.
That's great. Hey, one other thing here in technical stuff here, this annual fund, 3 years, goes to the World Fund and that. I was under the impression that if you specified which area of focus you wanted it to go to or whatever, that it affected the district direct funds or something like that. Is that, can you clarify that for us?
No. What happens is, so you have certain restricted funds in Rotary. Polio Plus is a restricted fund. And all that means is any monies that are donated to Polio Plus have to be used in the polio eradication effort. So think of the annual fund as a general fund, and you're donating, your money is just going into a general fund, and then it's just broken out and is spent, as needed throughout the projects that are presented to Rotary International. Now, if, say, for instance, you want yours to be in a specific area, well, you earmark it, fresh water, or you earmark it maternal and child health, or environment, which is one of the new avenues of service. So what happens when you earmark that is it's going to, after the 3 years of your donation sitting in the annual fund, when they pull it out, that 50% that goes to the World Fund goes to the restricted fund that's for that specific thing that you identified it as. So if you have identified, I want this to go to water and sanitation, then when that money goes to the World Fund, it's going to go to the Water and Sanitation Fund, and it can only be used for projects that are for water and sanitation. Whereas if you don't put that designation on there, you just give it to the annual fund, well, then when it goes into the World Fund, it's just sitting there in a pool and will be used as needed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the district direct funds that come back to the district.
No, it doesn't, because the other 50% comes back to the club. So when that money comes out of the annual fund, 50% goes into the World Fund, 50% comes back to the district. It doesn't matter that the 50% that's going to the World Fund is earmarked for a specific area of focus. That doesn't matter. And that's not going to affect the 50% that comes back to the district.
Okay. Hey, Steve, thanks. Thank you for the other members for being patient with my technical questions.
No worries. So let me end my presentation with this quote, and it is from Arch Klump himself. And he said that no one can tell us what Rotary will be tomorrow, but one thing is certain. What Rotary will be tomorrow depends on what Rotarians do today. So I thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you guys. And if there's any more questions, I'm happy to stay on and answer them.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Raise your hand. Anybody? Anybody? All right.
Well,
Nobody has any questions? That's amazing. Ivar, do you have a question?
well, I just have had a recent experience with a global grant that I'm running, on the mobile library. That suddenly I'm writing one of the annual reports, and then suddenly some of the information that is there has somehow been changed, and there's some of that information I cannot change. Some of the things in the reporting is fixed by the foundation, and I cannot change it. Now, this year with the COVID has changed almost everything, and in this specific project, there are things I cannot respond to the fixed setup by the foundation, and that is for me personally not nice. That I am making a report where some things are written in the report which is not true, because I cannot make any correction to the report because it's fixed beforehand by the foundation. And I don't know what to do about it. So I just sent my annual report with some data which is not correct. And that is the part that I don't like, that I sent information that is not correct. Steve, what do you have to say about that?
You should have an individual at Rotary International assigned to your district or to your zone.
Well, I have written to her about this problem. I really have.
Okay, and if you don't get any help that way, do you have by chance have a foundation cadre member in your zone or in your district? If not, you email me and I can put you in touch. We have a cadre actually in our district. She's one of our past district governors, and she is incredibly knowledgeable on global grants and the process and reporting and stewardship. I'm happy to put you in touch with her if you would like to, and then maybe you can address these issues with her. She may be able to assist you further, answer your questions.
Well, thank you. Well, I suppose that we have your email address, so I can write you.
Here, I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Looks like there's a question in the chat there too, Steve.
Okay, it says, please tell us again how to register on the Rotary Foundation site. Are you wanting to register for Rotary Direct, or are you wanting to register yourself personally on the website as a Rotarian? That should already be done.
I would like to register myself personally so that I know what I have donated.
Okay, well, you should. Have you ever accessed Rotary International before? The website, the Rotary International website?
Not the foundation.
No, the Rotary. So are you able to sign on to Rotary International website and sign into My Rotary?
Okay, that's where I need to start?
Well,
Right.
I'm asking you if you have done that before. Have you
No.
ever signed into My Rotary?
No.
Yeah, Steve, that's myrotary.org you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
yes.
So is
So-
that going through the foundation and
And
then,
the
I mean, going through Rotary.org and then
It goes
going
through
into
Rotary.org.
myrotary.org?
Yeah.
Right, you you navigate your way to the foundation through myrotary.org. That's how you get there.
Yes. So if you, here, I'll show you real quick. I'm gonna bring this up again. So what you want to do is you want to go to the Rotary International website and you want to click on My Rotary or sign in to My Rotary. See, I'm at rotary.org and there will be an option to says My Rotary. Click on My Rotary and it's going to ask you to sign in. Have you ever signed into My Rotary before?
No.
Okay, so that's where you're probably going to need to have Skip maybe assist you or whoever your membership chair is assist you in signing into myrotary.org. Once you sign into myrotary.org, then all you have to do is go to the Rotary Foundation and go to reports, and then you can find it that way. Is there someone in the club that can assist her in getting signed on to Rotary?
Our secretary generally does that. He's the most computer efficient. Is there any way you can put up a live screen, Steve, and just walk us through it? Like
Sure.
Not look at a picture of it,
Sure.
that might give people more confidence that they could do it with their own mouse, or even have another device with you.
Well, no, I
do
can,
it on
I
your
can do it
phone.
this way. I just have to change. Give me one moment here.
Are you okay with this, Skip?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I'm asking my president, Skip,
Oh,
whether he's all right with that, because we've got about 8 minutes left here.
Yeah, let's try and breeze through this, okay?
will do. All right, so I'm gonna bring up, let me share again. All right, what's going on here? Well, maybe, oh, here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Sorry. Okay, so can everybody see this?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so see, I have Rotary International set up as a hotkey for me. So I just click it and this is what comes up. So right here where it says My Rotary, I'm going to click on that and it's going to take me to a sign-in screen. Now, because I'm horrible at remembering passwords, I have mine preset. So see, now it brought me to this, but I'm still not signed in. It's just taking me to the My Rotary page. So
Right.
now I can either click here or I can click here. I'm just going to click here. And then I have my login and my password and I click remember me. So this is where your club secretary may need to come in to get you your password for your My Rotary.
Everybody, Steve and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody creates their own account.
I do believe so. And if I'm not mistaken, typically the password is your Rotary ID number unless you change it. I think that's how it is. So then I'm just going to click on sign in. And then it takes me, again, it takes a while to populate. And it'll put me into My Rotary.
Right.
Okay, so I'm now in My Rotary. So as I showed you in the presentation, if I hover over, see, I can hover over any of these and it gives me a different pop down. So I'm going to hover on the Rotary Foundation. Disregard this part that says grants because as district foundation chair, I have access to our global grants. You won't see that unless you're the district foundation chair.
Right.
Right. But you're going to see the left column, apply for grants, give, raise for Rotary, about, foundation reports. So I'm going to click on that. And there it is. It takes me right here. And then from there, I click on view report.
Why don't we click on give online? Because that seems to be Susan's question. Well, no, I guess she did want the report, didn't she?
Susan, do you want to know how to give online, or do you want to see how much you've given?
I wanted to see how much I've given.
Okay, so at this point, you would click on View Report, and it brings this up, and then you would click on Donor History Report, and it's going to bring up that report that I showed you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So it'll look like this. I don't care showing you my personal information. It is what it is. We're all Rotarians, right?
Steve, we have one more question.
Okay.
How do you access Rotary Direct?
All right. You can go to sign into, or go to www.myrotary.org/Rotary Direct.
Got it.
Okay.
Very
and there's
good.
that transaction detail tab that I was telling you about. You click on it, and then it brings up this, and it'll have all transactions posted to your account since you've been a Rotarian. And mine's 4 pages long, and you just navigate through the different pages right here.
Skip, before you wrap this up, I just want to say that in order to become part of the society and guarantee that you're going to give $1,000 a year and, you know, build your way, you got to give $83 a month. You know, that's less than 100 pesos a day. And I just want everybody to kind of realize that, you know, whether you give $250 a quarter, or you give $1,000 once a year, or you give $83 a month, it still allows you to join that society. And I think the society is, you know, it's something a lot more people in our club could be part of. And now that we all easily know how to go to a monthly or annual donation, quarterly, whatever, then I'm hoping some of that can happen.
You know, when I signed up for Rotary Direct, I have it charged my credit card, and you know, I just get a credit card bill every month. You know, I'm already using the credit card, so I'm giving, but you don't notice it. So,
you can also get a tax deductible receipt for any country you want. I've got more tax problems in Canada now than I do in the States. So I'm getting a Canadian tax receipt, although it's still based on $250 US a quarter.
All right, Tom, I'm gonna interrupt you here.
Thanks.
We're coming to the end of the hour. Steve, I really appreciate you being here. I think when we hear from people, particularly from the international, and in this particular case from the Rotary Foundation, I find that it's an inspiration for the rest of us to get more involved, more engaged in Rotary by stepping up and doing what we can to make contributions and hopefully achieving those Paul Harris levels that you spoke about. I really appreciate you being here. And normally we have a certificate already prepared, but we, you know, with people traveling around and everything, we don't have it, but we'll tell it to you. We're going to make a donation for 10 polio vaccines in your name to Rotary's End Polio Now campaign. And again, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
well, you're welcome. I do quite a few presentations. I do a really in-depth one on what is Paul Harris Fellowship. I also do one about what are the Rotary acronyms, because I think Rotary has more acronyms in the military. But I'm happy to come back and speak anytime. Just let me know. Just reach out. I'm always available.
Very good. Thank you, Steve, very much. The board meeting immediately follows, but I see by the old clock on the wall that it's 10:30. This meeting is adjourned.